treatment of people that are using synthetic drugs. And I think we have Michele Caliva, Administrative Director, and we have Livermore, Public Education Coordinator of the SUNY Upstate Poison Control Center.
Good afternoon. I just want to, of course, thank Assemblyman Barclay for all of the efforts. This is phenomenal. But to the family that stated behind me, I certainly send our sincere sympathy for your loss. But more than anything, I want to thank you for your courage and generosity of spirit to get behind this. It's just so impressive. Thank you. It has been a very strange year in the poison center world, 2012 and into 2013. We sort of stopped a lot of our education efforts around poison prevention and started focusing on synthetic drugs. And it became such an issue that we've done over 200 educational outreach programs to healthcare professionals throughout New York State, throughout 54 counties. The stories that I hear from the healthcare professionals on the front line are just impressive and amazing. They have never seen the types of symptoms and presentations that they do with these agents. It has been a learning experience for all of them. I heard everybody talking about, one step behind. Those of us in healthcare, those of us in toxicology, we think we're 3 steps behind. These folks that are making these agents are so clever. And there's just new ones every day. Bath salts, synthetic marijuana, that's sort of yesterday's conversation. It's not yesterday's. They've changed the names, this is what I'm trying to say. Molly now is a euphemism for all of you. It's still the same stuff. It's still synthetic marijuana. It's still bath salts, still causing these symptoms, but they're getting worse and worse and worse. So I just applaud all your efforts to get this banned and to help put that umbrella effect on all of it, because it's a difficult battle. So thank you.
Thank you.
The poison centers across the United States have been at the forefront of the synthetic drug problem ever since 2009. So let's bring it up to date today. Here's some packaging of the drugs that are out on the street. This one called Scooby Snacks, I found this morning while I was taking my dog out for a walk. So if it's not in the stores, it's underground, but it's in our communities. It's the awareness of these sort of packaging which gives the misleading that it is legal and that it is safe. It takes a community, it takes our state, it takes every one of us here to make a difference and to change this. So I applaud Assemblyman Barclay for all of the efforts and Assemblyman Richard. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. I just want to also introduce Jeannie Unger, who's the Director of Farnham Family Services in Oswego. Thank you very much for being here. With that, again, I want to thank everybody who's here to help push this legislation. We're really going to put a big push on this last few weeks that we have left in Albany to see if we can get some movement going with this legislation this year. With that, I'd be happy to take questions. I'm sure anyone else would take questions too.
Just recently, we saw a person who ran several of these shops under prosecution. An announcement from the Attorney General that his total penalty will be 2 months in jail. Just what are the stiffer penalties in this bill, and is that the toughest selling point when you get to the floor of December?
The case you're talking about, I don't know specifically what the penalties are. We do up the penalties in this. I think that one we've been for, talking about the guy in Watertown, that was for mislabeling. We do change that to felony charges for mislabeling going forward. So we give the AG more ability to go after someone harder for mislabeling going forward. I just don't know the facts of that case, whether this would apply exactly on that. The second part of your question, that has been some of the problems of getting matching bills in the Senate and the Assembly passed on this. But again, a lot of the bills, or some of the bills I mentioned, are really just compound, putting them on the drug list instead of actually doing something that's going to be able to change going forward. And that's why I think this legislation is superior. I'll have to obviously work with my colleagues in the majority in the Assembly to see if we can get them to pick it up. If we can get someone to help pick this up, and it helps to have a Senate sponsor in that regard, then we can maybe get a matching bill and try to get it passed.
Again, it seems that you legislators are always playing catch up on this. Will this really put you ahead in terms of, heading off the drug dealers?
Well, I think so. First of all, as I mentioned earlier, we give the Commissioner of Health the ability to put anything in the controlled substance list related to synthetic marijuana and related to the bath salts. So if he sees it as a public health crisis, he's going to be able to put it in on that list, so we don't have to pass legislation every time. That, as you know, the legislation process takes a long time. The other thing that I should mention this legislation does, and I think Teresa mentioned it too, it also defines synthetic marijuana and bath salts, how the effect it has on the human body. So even if you change the compound slightly of these things, if it's having the same effect that it would be under the, say, the original compound, that would still be illegal. And we also define synthetic marijuana, we add that to the definition of marijuana in the legislation. So whenever you refer to marijuana, any of the penalties that go with any of the marijuana, possession or sale of marijuana would also apply also to synthetic marijuana.
So basically you're saying creating an effect is what's illegal, not
That's
the
exactly right,
substance.
how it affects the, the noise in your head and how that drug affects that. And that's really a unique way of addressing this too. So I think we hit it at every angle we possibly can. So if these people do come out, change the formula around and start marketing under something that's not on the controlled substance list, we'll still be able to hit them. We'll be able to hit them with the mislabeling. We'll be able to hit them because it's the effect on the human body. And we'll also have the Commissioner of Health that can put it on the list. Any other questions?
So, as you mentioned, there's not much time left in this session, and as you also talked about, the trying to keep up with this and the pace this is changing. If you can't get it through in the next couple weeks, will this bill be relevant by next session next year?
I don't think this bill will ever be relevant because of the way it's drafted. I mean, obviously, we fortunately have, by executive order, the Department of Health has acted, but we certainly can give law enforcement and prosecutors more tools to be able to go after this thing. So I don't think it'll be irrelevant, and if it doesn't pass this year, we're going to go right at it. And what we need is really advocates like the Wilson family to come forward and put pressure on the legislature. And those stories, these human interest stories, are very, very important because it brings that human feel back down to legislators that may not have much experience or much impact, haven't been impacted by synthetic drugs in their community as much. So I really appreciate people coming out today and advocating for this legislation.
Either Sheriff Todd or Mr. Oates, can we get an answer on what the enforcement side would change with this bill?
I couldn't hear the question.
She wanted to know the enforcement side of how that would change
Does this
with
give you
this
a lot more
legislation.
enforcement power, this bill?
Absolutely. I mean,
step to
the problem that we have is by the time they pass it, the legislation, to change the ingredients, we've lost months. Where now with the health department being able to automatically put it in, if we find this stuff and take it to the health commissioner and he says, oh, yeah, this is it, we can automatically start making arrests rather than be a year and a half behind in being able to do this stuff. And the fact that we can, by his designating it, it makes it illegal when it goes to be prosecuted so that all this can be automatically prosecuted too. We don't have to wait months and months and years to have it diagnosed by a lab to say that, yes, it is bad. The health commissioner does it for us and we're good. It's a great legislation.
Sheriff Todd, could you talk about what it looks like for your officers when they arrive on a scene and someone's under the influence?
First of all, when we arrive on the scene and we have something like this, we never know what the reaction is going to be. We have people that go from calm and talking with us to punching us in the face. We have them when we show up when they're completely out of control already. They've been a hindrance to other people already, and we show up. And again, our job not only is to protect the public, but is to protect the person involved. And we take some great risks in doing that, both on the road when they're out there and even in corrections, because we have had reactions that come a day or two later, a week or two later. And most of the time the reaction is just complete violence. We've had people we pepper sprayed 3 times and it did absolutely nothing to them. We tasered them and they say, hit me again, that was nice, nothing. They don't feel the pain, there is just no controlling. And for my guys and girls, the people that are out there having to deal with this, as well as the state and the local, all police stuff, it's just overwhelming because we don't know what we're dealing with. We don't know what weapons they have. We don't know what they have and what they've ingested. And then you get into, if you're going down, the breathing, you have to be very careful. I mean, there's just so much there involved in not just arresting somebody, putting them in handcuffs, but we have to protect their health and welfare too.